the same. We share the love, embracing the differences like hand in glove. Peace and joy, it's a beautiful sight. Together we shine in each other's light. Why do we stand in love's pure mind? Watching the world share in love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. We stand in love's pure mind.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Watching the World. It's so nice to have a members only, I call it a chit chat, just to talk about a few things that I think are quite essential, especially in the season that we're living in. I imagine that if you are a member, that we can talk about things that are a little bit more basic, one-on-one than what I would typically talk about during the show. So I look forward to chatting with you and going over some key issues that we are facing. And not only are we facing it as individuals, we're also facing it as families, right? I'm pretty sure you have family members going through different crises, and then many times you have to go through it along with them, of course, if you choose to, right? But before we get started, I'd like for you to do this little process. If you're near a mirror, I would like for you to go and stand in front of the mirror. Now, I'm not going to do it, but I have the camera in front of me. My question to you, when you stand in front of the mirror, how would you express what you're doing right now? Would you say, I am looking at me? So my question to you is I and me the same person, the same being, the same exact entity? Think about that. What is this I? What is this consciousness that we have that's able to look out of our eyes and actually evaluate ourselves? And in fact, if you close your eyes, you can still envision yourself. Unlike animals, we have the uniqueness of self-awareness, right? Many times we don't quite understand the I and the me. Well, the me today, let's say, for instance, I work at a grocery store and I'm a bus driver, right? When people look at me, they see a bus driver, right? If they see me driving the bus. But tonight, if I were working at the grocery store, they'd say, oh, this is the stock guy, right? But when it comes to life, right, the I, what's looking from behind these two eyes, what happens when you're depressed? Am I depressed? Or am I experiencing some depression right now? A lot of times we put our whole being, right? And we don't categorize our lives the right way. And we connect with depression, and you get these individuals, they can't even move, or they latch on to anxiety and all of these things, and they just make it their attachment, right? But I say all of that is we have the ability to observe ourselves as though we're sitting over in the corner watching ourselves. In many cases, when you practice awareness, people won't have to tell you that you misbehave, right? This is how, in one way, we can elevate because we're observing ourselves. Throughout the day, a lot of us in autopilot. Maybe you went to put your keys on the counter, but maybe you put it in the cabinet, right? Because your mind, you're just racing, right? But today we're going to talk about being able to change your mindset. I had you do that experience because I just want to open your mind to some of the things that we're going to be discussing in our members only section. Talking about how we can have awareness, because I want to get to the point where we're talking about investing. We're talking about all of these very essential parts of elevating. When I grew up in the South, right, I was very poor. We grew up in a house, no running water, right? I used to get on the bus. The kids said, "Oh, look at that raggedy house," right? But this is what I knew. This is what my family had at the time. But in me, and I'm not saying right or wrong, it gave me this burning desire to become a rich man or wealthy, right? Became a key ingredient. And with that came this drive that was crazy. You know, I just want to be determined to acquire things, right? And then guess what? It happened in my life. And then I started to realize, whoa, where did my drive go? You know, I'm taking it easy now, a little bit too much than what I wanted to. And you know what happened? Once I got beyond the race, I started to realize, like, oh man, life is really hard. You know, when I was in the rat race, I wasn't able to see different things because you're trying to make your next dollar, you're trying to do your next job, you're trying to make it to work, you got to pay your rent, you got to pay your mortgage, you got to do all of these different things, right? And see, that's what's happening now. And we're going to get to it today when we're talking about food stamps in Section 8. Now, when Donald Trump took office, I made a few predictions on my Facebook. People who are my friends can go back and look at it, actually, right? But some of the predictions I made, one prediction I made, I says Donald Trump is going to put troops in Chicago one day. That's on my Facebook. Go back and look at it. Now, I didn't know exactly how, but they were killing so many individuals, right? So I was able to, in a way, predict that, right? I also said that COVID was a test from the health vantage point, but the next test is going to be financial. I said that on my Facebook page. And guess what? That's what's happening right now. So what can we do? Because we have to start at the bottom, right? We have so many different people, but people are struggling now, and a lot of it's by design. And the reason why I say that is because the minute I heard about Project 2025, I knew we were in for trouble. A lot of people said, oh, no, that's just a hoax. Someone said on the show last night, Project 2025 is just a hoax. Well, now we're starting to figure out that it's not. I'm going to show you today how when Donald Trump was giving his debate, he actually said that he knew nothing about Project 2025. And guess what? Now, the person who authored the 2025 Project 2025, Donald Trump elevated him to a high position, right? So that's why today I'm going to show you there's a lot of different myths going through about food stamps Section 8. I'm going to show you what's really true and what's, what's false. But anyway, I say all that to help us to try to set the stage for, I have a whole program coming through. I have professionals coming in from different categories. It's going to be for members only, but I have a banker coming through that's going to help you understand your banking. Because as we evaluate the I, right? Because imagine this, right? Whoever you live with it in life, maybe it's your kids or your mate, whoever, right? Sometimes you might be yelling and you don't realize it. Or maybe you're so frustrated. But if you practice awareness where you're trying to consciously observe yourself, a lot of times you'll say, you know what? I was too rough with her. What's wrong with me? I need to work on that. You won't always have to have someone tell you. In fact, when people tell you things sometimes, it's just human nature. We tend to not want to hear it, right? Oh my goodness, what do you do? You're always on my case, right? But this is how, by working on the I, on the being that's behind these two eyes, we're able to elevate. It's not just about money, because if you latch your whole life onto money, and then the first thing that happens, the government frees your accounts, you no longer have access to your money, then you're going to be miserable, right? Because we get all these different attachments and we set ourselves up for the next heartbreak because we just want these little moments to, like they say, to give us dopamine so we could feel good in the moment. That's why we do the swiping, or that's why people take drugs, or there's so much weed and things, people are taking on a larger scale, right? Because they just want the fix for the moment. So I want to show you, let me pay attention to, let me pull up the screen here. I want to show you something. This is Donald Trump. Before I get into the actual food stamps, I want you to watch what the President of the United States says. This is very important.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad.
You guys hear that? He doesn't have a clue about Project 2025. Does not have a clue. I just want to play it one more time. I want you guys to really understand, because I'm going to show you now what this is not true.
And I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great...
See, the president of the United States, he's the open book. He's so honest to you, right? You can believe in your leader, right?
Economy, like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where...
Okay, so the president has no clue about Project 2025. Now check this out. You won't believe it's going to blow you away. Check this out.
This morning, President Trump is saying he's moving forward with more cuts to federal agencies as the government shutdown moves into day 2. And helping him make those decisions, Russell Vogt, the head of the Office of Management and Budget. And as the president has mentioned, he's a key author of...
You hear that? He's the head of the office. Who you think put this guy in office? This guy is the author of Project 2025. Check it out.
Project 2025. The plans that got so much attention during the campaign. Vogt has already announced several of the cuts since the shutdown began and has emerged as a key member of the president's team.
You all know Russell Vogt. He's become very popular recently because he can trim the budget to a level that you couldn't do any other way. So they're taking a risk.
Now, the key word here is trim the budget. And now this is how you're going to get to food stamps, Section 8, that we're going to break down. I'm going to show you how these things are getting cut out. So, and keep in mind that I covered the homeless about 2 months ago. I showed you what pretty much Donald Trump, I showed you guys on the video where he's saying that these individuals could actually go live in tents somewhere, right? They're going to move them out. A lot of people put rumors out saying, oh, there might be a pipeline to getting these individuals locked up or something, right? But there's a video I showed you guys where Donald Trump says that they can move them out of D.C., out of New York, out of Chicago, and since they're living outside anyway, they can be put into tents, right? Pay attention to that, right? Okay, so check this out.
By having a shutdown.
But who exactly is Russell Vogt, and how did he get all this power? Let's get more from New York Times Washington correspondent Coral Davenport, who just wrote a very extensive piece on the White House budget director. Coral, thanks so much for joining us. We just heard the president praising Vogt for his cuts. How did he come to earn?
So the big picture here is this. You have the homeless, and they want to move them out in an organized manner. It hasn't been defined what's really going to happen, but it's not a beautiful scenario. Well, it's not a beautiful scenario for them to live on the street anyway, but people fear the element of people might be disappearing. You hear these myths, right? But why do people go homeless, right? Because they have normal lives. Perhaps a lot of guys I meet are homeless. They go through divorce, right? Maybe they get caught cheating and the wife says, hey, buddy, get out the house. So they have no place to go. They end up on the street. Sometimes people get sick. They come down with cancer. They're battling. Maybe they lose their job. But a lot of it has to do with the economy. In fact, a lot of the crime that we're seeing it because people don't have funds. They don't have money. So we already know that this is the true existence of what's happening here in our own country. But now they're taking away the social assistance with welfare that people need. So do you see what the cycle is going to turn into, this vicious cycle? And the question is, who are these individuals that are going to take the hit the most? Let's keep watching.
Earn the president's trust.
And I'm giving you guys the receipts. The president stood there and he said he had no clue about Project 2025, but yet he used the man that authored this whole book, right? And he put him as the head man in charge of the whole department. You can't make this stuff up.
What do we know about his plans and priorities?
Sure. So Russ Vought has been with the Trump administration since the first term. He was deputy budget director and then budget director in the first term. In that first White House term, he was involved. He kind of tried to use the power of the White House to cut off spending. He was involved in the decision to cut off Ukraine spending, which ended up getting the president impeached, to reroute money for building the wall, which ended up getting canceled, to try to fire employees kind of at will, thousands of federal employees. All of those were ideas.
So as far as the federal employees losing their jobs, right? Who's behind it? The same guy, Russ Vought here, right? Working in unison with the president of the United States that had no clue about it, right? Big trouble, folks.
That he really embraced, that he wanted the president to be able to do, that kind of fell apart. And he spent...
Now, notice his third point. Now, this covered it. Let me see if I can close that out. His third point there is push for pocket recessions. Do you know what that means? Right? It's all by design in many cases, right? And when you fall, if you can't pick yourself up by your bootstraps, you're going to be in hot water. Now, that's why for the last couple of months, I've been saying, listen, you need to focus on perhaps starting your own business, figure out a different strategy to be able to take care of you and your own, because some tough days are coming where you're really going to have to be able to figure this out on your own, because you won't have the government assistance, right? And in many cases, even those who want to help you just may not be able to do it, right?
The 4 years of the Biden administration kind of relentlessly working. He started his own think tank. He worked with Project 2025 on this project of how can the president do these things and have them stick? And because he's a budget director, he thought of using the tools, the levers of the federal budget. How can the president get the power to cut off spending, to stop spending, to shut down federal agencies, to fire workers, to shrink down the government to, the size that you could fit it in a teacup? He has spent.
So let's just pause here. I'm going to get to a few of the comments, but now you guys understand what's happening, right? Everybody's being lulled to sleep with these different distractions. Let's say TikTok, you're just swiping all day, right? Because you get these dopamine effects. It makes you feel cozy to sit there maybe with a glass of wine and just see what's happening. Maybe Facebook, whatever it is. Sometimes watching movies, kids playing video games, they get triggers from the brain. That's what this is all about. But these different strategies that are being used from a higher level are causing people to not pay attention to what's happening, right? Now, all of a sudden, right, you have your head down, you're swiping and you're trying to date somebody and you're so in love and you want to think about your next vacation, you're happy, you look up, boom, and you don't have your government aid anymore. That's if you're already on it, right? Now you're like, well, I didn't know that this was happening. Yeah, because you haven't been paying attention to what the most important things are. You do not have your priorities together. And that's the issue here. That's what we're trying to bring awareness about. Let me get to a few of the comments. I see a lot of them. Thank you guys for being here. Shout out to all the moderators that are here. I really do appreciate it. We have, I have to gear up for news at noon. So we're going to be cutting this short pretty soon. Shout out to you, Bordeaux, JDP, Deborah's in the building. Okay. All right, Faisal. Okay, I don't know what that's about. Shout out to you, Eric. How are you doing? Good morning. Good morning, Gold Digger. Thank you so much. Okay. All right. A lot of people are not happy. AI, nice to have you here. Psychological gratification. That's what it's about, but it's handicapping people from really getting their affairs in order. Okay, B. Pat, shout out to you. Good morning to you. Okay. Jessica says Kamala was the biggest joke perpetrated on the American people since the pet rock. Okay, thank you very much. Robert, welcome to you. Donnie Diapers is an idiot. Thank you for your attention in the matter. Yes, and wait till you see what I'm about to bring up now. We're going to get to the receipts, folks. Jessica says, Robert says that while putting his dress on and coloring his hair blue. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, Robert says just trolling. Okay. Steve says there are no homeless in Russia. Okay. Thank you for pointing that out. Robert says, please explain how Grindr crashes and Republicans meet. Just curious. Okay. And thank you guys for all that became members. I really do appreciate that as well. We have quite a few comments. Eric says, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you to the live screen. Ziggy Bear says, come on, bro, get a job. Have the people get a job and work and do their part. They don't need a government food check. That's just stupid. My grandparents work. Your grandparents work. So, Ziggy, you're making accusations. You don't know my position. Maybe I'm wealthy. See what I'm saying? You're just talking. You have to work on getting your facts together. So that's why I try to bring facts, because it's very important. You're just shooting hot air. Okay, so anyway, let's get back to this. I just want to finish this up, and I'm going to show you what's happening with food stamps in Section 8.
All this time really working, researching, planning, mapping, strategizing this in a deeply disciplined and focused way. And
why is he so set?
And Ziggy, if you're going to be a member, I'm just going to need you to get with the program and get focused. That's what we're talking about. We don't want to deal with distractions, and you're distracting everyone. So it's better for you to hang on the outskirts if you want to be a class clown.
On shrinking the federal government, where does that even come from?
Yeah, I mean, he's a conservative's conservative. You know, he grew up in a very Christian home. He's deeply religious. He went to an evangelical Christian college, Wheaton College in Illinois. His first job.
Okay, Ziggy, I'm sorry if you wasn't talking to me. I apologize for that.
Job in Washington was with Republican Senator Phil Gramm, who was sort of known as the most unloved man in Washington for his efforts to cut the budget. I think he's talked about how.
Now, there was a press conference. Donald Trump called this guy, he called him Darth Vader, because he knows what this guy's doing. He's almost like the Grim Reaper, cutting programs, and they have it all by design, down to the year. And here we are, we're just lollygagging like we're constipated, not even paying attention to ourselves and our needs. That's why I try to encourage everyone. I think it's good for each of us today, and that's what this whole live stream is about. Just take a few moments and do an inventory of yourself. That's what I'm doing today, What am I taking into my mind? It's very important. It affects the eye, right? It affects your next moves in life, because ultimately, a lot of the things that you're experiencing now is because of decisions you made 5 years ago. It's not the decisions you made last night, right? Where you live at, you didn't make that decision last night. You made it a while ago. So if you feel like you're going through various hardships, if you change your mindset now, you can rewrite your story. It doesn't even matter what people say about you. You can write and make the determination of your future. And that's what's so beautiful about it. We have to make these type of changes. What about what we're eating? I struggle to drink water, and that's what I'm working on today. That's one of the things I wrote on my list. So it might be good for you to take out a white sheet of paper now. And it doesn't matter how rich you are, how poor, and really write out what changes that you need to make in your life you feel like could help you. Because if you're not doing anything, you won't see any progress. Mostly all of what you have, it doesn't matter what you can do with money or whatever. If you don't have your eye together, if you can't figure out or have good kindness in your heart towards your fellow man, right? We're so quick to want to look at somebody and say, hey, you're a red or you're a blue. You're a Democrat. Oh, the minute the person says they're a Republican, your brain shuts down and you no longer try to understand them. You take the person and you put them in the Republican box and you say, hey, move on, right? That's just how we are. When we're trying to categorize buttons, red and blue, okay, you're going to take the red one, put it in the red pile. You're not even looking at it again, right? Because you made your decision. So it's important for us to take some time and do an inventory. What about the people in your life, right? Usually, as humans, it's just normal. People need things. And a lot of times people have you in their life because they need you for a particular reason. Now, you might not want to face the music. You might not want to face the fact, we live in a world where women are just objects to most people. And a lot of times it's because of porn. Men watch porn so much, or even women. But the minute the mind is controlled by these outside forces, right? All of a sudden, you no longer see a beautiful gal that you want to sing a love ballad to, like back in the day with Casey and JoJo, whatever song you like, right? Now you just see a lady and you want to use her for your gratification and have her out the door by tomorrow morning. And then the next night do it again. That's where we're just headed, right? Whereas back in the day, I bet your grandparent would probably say they were looking more for a family and raising the kids together and having unity. It's sad to say, but these things are pretty much out of the window. So these are different audits that we can take on in our lives. And maybe you feel like you're being used. Maybe you should try saying no to a person and see how they react to you. That'll be a good indicator that perhaps you might need to change course a bit, right? Right? We only get this life. We get this consciousness. A lot of times now, because of sickness, we're getting cut short. I have 3. I keep telling you guys, I have 3 family members battling cancer right now, stemming from breast cancer. My mother passed from breast cancer. She only lived to be 47 years old. When we start to realize that life is so short, then we start to realize, hey, listen, if you're going to be in my life, you're going to have to treat me, number one, with the utmost respect, okay? Also, we have to elevate. We can't just be sitting around here like, what are we doing? Where are we going in 2 years? That's what you have to tell your partner. You owe that to yourself, right? And not only your partner, you need to figure out, you have to talk to yourself. You got this I that we started off with. We need to figure out, where is this consciousness going? And also, perhaps, what do you believe in, right? What is your why? These are all the things that we have to sit down and try to figure out. Or what about from a financial standpoint? Once we have ourselves in gear, what does my credit report looks like? Can I even go buy a car today if I wanted to? For years, I was in finance, right? You need at least a 620 credit score. Do you know what your credit score is? Now, for those that are into the Bible, I'm not necessarily the most religious person, but I will say there's a text that says a good name is better than fine oil, right? My grandmother used to say your name will carry you further than money, right? So when it comes to your credit, do you know what's being reflected on your name? Do you care that you have a judgment that it may not be yours, right? You have the right to go and dispute these things about your name. But a lot of times we're so busy just trying to find the next meal or just trying to survive that we can't even take time, or we just waste time scrolling, chatting, wanting to go on vacation just so we can appear to be great to people, right? So that's another way. What about as far as the different subscriptions you have monthly? How many subscriptions are you paying? How many times do you pay the company that you shouldn't be paying, right? But you're not even aware because you signed up for some 30-day subscription and they still have you on the hook. And every month they're just taking your money. You don't even see it. That happens more than you can even imagine. But again, we're not taking an audit on our lives. And I don't want to go on too long here because I have to get to these points. We'll just call this part 1. I'll get back to this another day because I have to do news at noon. But I want to go over this with you real quick about food stamps, okay? But I'm going to get back to that subject. But again, keep thinking along the lines of I and me. Is I and me the exact same? Are you able to observe yourself? Do you have awareness? What are you doing, right? If you're getting high, what's the reason why you're getting high? What's troubling you? Should you seek help, right? Right? Did something happen in your childhood? Are you just blocking it? Do you want to advance and get over it? These are all different things that we could look at. But let's get back to Donald Trump and the Project 2025. Now, right now we just think this whole food stamp and Section 8 is because of the shutdown. But I'm going to show you now. But this is all part of the program, folks. Check this out. Food stamps, it says food assistance used by more than 40 million Americans. Now, that's a big number. 40 million Americans will not be distributed from November the 1st. People will not get their food stamps. And guess what? We're going into Thanksgiving. We're going into the holidays. They're not going to get their food stamp right now because of the shutdown. So due to the ongoing U.S. government shutdown, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, bottom line, the well has run dry. The department said in a notice on its website, which also blamed Democrats, right? So they're just blaming Democrats. But guess who's going to feel the heat when you don't get your monthly amount, okay? So it says that the SNAP program, which is used by so many Americans, right, is going to be cut tremendously. Now, I want to show you something else. Look at this here. Now, that was in connection with the shutdown, but I want to show you how it's synonymous with this particular Project 2028. Let's see if I can find it here. All right, government efficiency. I'm trying to find it. Let's see. I had it all right. Okay, here we go. Social welfare programs. Pay attention to this. Project 2025. Remember, Donald Trump knew nothing about it, but he put the head man in charge who actually wrote the script for this, right? You see the games. Social welfare programs. Project 2025 cites fraud and waste and safety net programs and calls for eliminating or reducing basic benefits for low-income individuals and families. For Medicaid, Project 2025 proposes adding work requirements for beneficiaries and the time limits or lifetime caps. So they're going to squeeze on, you see this, the Medicaid, right? So we know what's coming down the pipeline. Now, it says the conservative plan also calls for the tightening of work requirements for the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, formerly known as food stamps, and changing the eligibility requirements for temporary assistance for needy families, which was created by the overhaul of the welfare system of 1996. Okay, so people have to make some severe changes. You have to change your mindset, because where you're just depending on, a person might be depending on the aid from the government. Well, guess what? As a part of Project 2025 is out the window. Let's look at briefly here Section 8. Section 8 is taking a hit as well. I just want to go over it briefly. Here are some of the changes coming with Section 8, and these are the facts, folks. Funding reduction. The proposal includes a significant cut to the Department of Housing and Urban Development HUD budget, which would decrease funding for the rental assistance program, Section 8. You know how many people have been on Section 8 for many years? Now, I know already in the comments, people are saying, well, yeah, you shouldn't have been on Section 8 anyway, you're broke, whatever, right? That's the mentality that people have, okay? But it's getting cut. That's the bottom line. Also, they want to shift it to the state level control, right? So now your state will have to deal and implement the program. But check this out. They're pushing for a time limit. You get 2 years on Section 8 and you're out of here, okay? Now, a lot of times people on Section 8, there's other reasons too. They're battling cancer. They have maybe some mental deficiencies going on or impaired children. It's just not a cookie cutter type of situation. What about the impact also on landlords? Some landlords, this is how they usually have Section 8 tenants. I know when I was in the business, landlords will look for those Section 8 tenants because it's a guaranteed check, right? Well, now they're going to be switching up because a person will only get 2 years on the program. And there's a host of other program changes coming through as well. So I'm going to get back to a few of the comments, and then I have to be out for the next show. But I do appreciate having you guys on. Let's see what anyone's saying. AI Metspot says females and males both are abusing Chat GPT and companionship. Okay, all right. Daniel Hamilton says this administration is a group of criminals and losers. Okay, all right. Gold Digger says, right, Mel, it's healthy to have goals and a strategy and how to achieve them. Okay, thank you, Gold Digger. AI says single mother who rather DoorDash and Uber Eats instead of cooking, about to be over. Okay, a lot of changes are coming through. Eric says you can't get Uber Eats with food stamps, dummy. Okay, I guess he's responding to you, AI. Thriller Movement says when are they cutting Section 8? Well, they're getting the final say so from Congress, but it's coming down the pipeline. And remember from the video we saw, Trump's lead guy here that is really pushing the Project 2025. He's helping Donald Trump strategize so that he can make these changes without having to lean on Congress so much. Okay. Shadow Pop says that is good only for the able-bodied people. Okay. But not everybody is able-bodied. And these programs, they work tremendously for people. Just to say that everybody on these programs are just losers is not a advantageous way of looking at it. Okay. All right. Deborah says, what's really important? Okay. Charles Allen says Republicans are extinct. The Congress is controlled. Okay. All right. Okay. Yes. AI Mac, women use men too. That is the truth. I'm not taking away from that at all. I actually kind of mentioned that when I was setting up my illustration. Okay. So anyway, at any rate, thank you guys for tuning in. I will come back to this subject on another live members only. But tune back in at noon. We're going to go over a lot of hot topics that have arisen over the weekend. So you want to pay attention to what's happening. You can tune back in. We're going to break down these topics. We look forward to your comments as well, and also your participation. If you would like to come up and ask a question, feel free to do so. I just ask that you always be respectful and treat others with kindness if you have it in you. And that's the key, you know. Whatever's in you is what's bound to come out. And I think that's a hardcore fact. But keeping with the theme, we definitely want to stay focused and try to elevate. But in order to do that, we have to start inside, right? We have to evaluate ourselves and figure out our why. Most people don't even realize why they do what they do because they're just in survival mode, right? So thank you again for tuning in. I'll be back on shortly. I appreciate all of the moderators for definitely holding us together. And I appreciate everybody who became a member, who shares, who subscribes, and so forth and so on. I'll see you guys shortly.
Different voices, but the same song. Living a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the thing remains. Embracing diversity, brighter days in sight. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might. Harmony, painting the night. United we stand.